I've been listening to you for years, Greg. Thanks for all you do and keeping us informed.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Open's already rolling, so there's a lot to get to this morning. Let's go.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
This is the Greg Belt.
Good morning, my friend. The marketplace of ideas is open. It's great to have you along on this Friday morning, January 31st. A lot of things happening. The National Transportation Safety Board says they have now recovered critical evidence that could put together the final moments before that crash that we have all been just really heartbroken as you watch this. It's terrible. Between the helicopter and American Airlines flight 5342. And so a spokesperson for NTSB said the recorders are at the labs for evaluation. So I think they had announced this last evening. Also, there are media reports saying that the Black Hawk helicopter that was involved in this crash may have been flying higher than approved and outside of its flight path. So, according to reports, now these are media reports, and we'll wait and see what happens. But the pilot of the Black Hawk asked for permission to use the specific route that lets helicopters fly no higher than 200 feet and near the bank on the east side of the Potomac, which would have let it avoid the plane. However, the aircraft didn't follow the intended route. Instead, it flew above 300 feet and was at least a half mile off of their approved route when it collided with the airplane. So we'll have to wait for additional details about that. Also, we're learning one of the U.S. Army pilots who was killed when the helicopter went down, and his wife confirmed his death on social media. His name is Andrew Eves, and she wrote on Facebook, "I'm sure by now all of you have heard the news of the tragedy that has occurred in D.C. My husband was one of the pilots in the Black Hawk. We ask that you pray for our family and friends and for all the other families that are suffering today. We ask for peace while we grieve." I totally agree with that. You know, you want to let these folks have peace. We're going to talk about that in more detail because I don't think that's where the country is at least at the moment. Also, the FAA saying this is a preliminary safety report from the FAA found that air traffic control staffing was not normal at the time of this accident. So this was first detailed in the New York Times. Said one air traffic controller handling helicopters was also directing planes landing and departing from runways. Normally, two people are supposed to handle those duties. So, again, we'll have to wait and see what we learn. So, President Trump taking questions and on this issue, talking to reporters yesterday, and CNN's Caitlin Collins objected to what Trump was saying. And she called Trump, but Trump was talking about DEI policies playing a role in the crash. And so as he's talking to reporters in the briefing room yesterday morning, he talked about efforts by the Biden administration as well as the Obama administration to lower aviation standards. And at the same time, he said, well, the cause of the crash had yet to be determined. So Caitlin Collins called him out for blaming Democrats and DEI policies and air traffic control. And she said, seemingly the member of the U.S. military who was flying that Black Hawk helicopter. So she asked Trump, don't you think you're getting ahead of the investigation right now? He said, no, I don't think so at all. I don't think with the names of the people, you mean the names of the people that are on the plane? You think that's going to make a difference? They are a group of people who have lost their lives. If you want a list of names, we can give you that. We'll be giving that very soon. We're in coordination with American Airlines. We're in coordination very strongly, obviously, with the military. And then he said, I think that's not a very smart question. I'm surprised coming from you. So this really is touched on. And then there's, of course, you get folks who are reacting to what Donald Trump has said and all of this. And I really wonder, can we kind of wait and find out, can we actually, I don't know, get some facts before we, before we start arriving at conclusions? And you got the media also, the media is out there and they're speculating, they're reacting to Trump. You got Democrat politicians reacting to Trump. Trump is sensational at that, at being able to drive their reactions. Should we be waiting? I asked that question of you this morning on Facebook, and I really welcome your answer. As I was talking, I mentioned the wife of Andrew Eves, saying, I'm sure, by now you've heard about this. And she's saying, we ask that you pray for our family and friends and for all the other families that are suffering today. We ask for peace while we grieve. Not a lot of peace in America, unfortunately, today. And should there be? Should we kind of, be in such a rush to, whether it's Donald Trump or anybody else, to let's get the facts before we engage in that. And I'm not saying those things are not an issue, but at the same time, I don't know that they were an issue either. The speculation and the absence of information, I think, for a lot of us is difficult. So we'll talk about that this morning. I'm curious to get your thoughts. Also, wow, incredible. Excuse me, my beard is itchy this morning. Incredible fireworks on Capitol Hill yesterday. You had 3 hearings that were underway. Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who was in for another day of hearings, and it was pretty incredible. So let's work our way through these. Politico says Kash Patel's hearing, expected to produce fireworks, was mostly a dud. Now that, honestly, that depends on your perspective, because I thought there were a lot of fireworks. They just didn't benefit Democrats. The fireworks that took place did not benefit the Democrats. Did you see Kash Patel and Amy Klobuchar? Did you catch any of that? She's trying to grill him and wanting questions, and he reminds her, well, you've got 2 minutes. That's how long they have to ask questions. So he says, you have 2 minutes, and she's almost sputtering. Oh, it was hilarious. At least that was my take. It's just laughter. And this guy is tough. I mean, seriously, Kash Patel is absolutely tough. He was pushing back. So let's see, Fox News. They say 4 of the biggest clashes between Patel and Senate Democrats at his confirmation hearing. One with Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut. He blasted Patel for refusing to share his grand jury testimony from the probe into Trump's handling of classified documents after leaving the White House. Blumenthal told Patel that, refusing to share his remarks with the panel gave the appearance he's being less than transparent. And he said, even in a classified confidential setting, I think that position is disqualifying. What are you hiding? What won't you tell us? And Patel was just refusing to answer the question. Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois also going after Patel over Donald Trump's pardon and sentence commutations to the 1,500 defendants then in the January 6th Capitol riots. I put that in quotation marks, riots. There were some. There were also arrests, I think, that many of us would question. Durbin asked Patel whether the U.S. is safer after the mass pardons were granted. And he told Durbin he had not looked at all 1,600 individual cases. He said, I also believe America is not safer because of President Biden's commutation of a man who murdered 2 FBI agents, he said, talking about Leonard Peltier. He said the agents' families deserve better than to have the man that point blank range fired a shotgun into their heads and murdered them released from prison. So it goes both ways, he said. Probably most striking was the reaction between him and Senator Adam Schiff of California. He went after Patel with a number of questions, talking about the January 6th prison choir. Patel had shared the song Justice for All on social media. And he said at the time he did not know about the violent offenders. And he said he personally did not participate in any of the violence in and around January 6th. So then Schiff said, turn around and look at them. They motioning to the officers lined up in the back of the room. And Patel did not. He said, I want you to look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel. Tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, so on. Then you had, this was all the usual suspects. Town Hall of Adam Schiff has got a piece this morning, townhall.com. This Katie Pavlich, who says Adam Schiff tried to take down Kash Patel. It went how you'd expect. So, yeah, pretty much. I think a lot of this is. So again, I mentioned Amy Klobuchar, this response. During the confirmation hearing, she suggested that Patel believes some U.S. Capitol police officers lied under oath. And Patel said that's a general statement and a mischaracterization of what I said. I encourage you to read the rest of the interviews. This is why snippets of information are often misleading. How many times do I tell you that? I say, okay, read the rest of this quote. This happens to Trump all the time. You get a portion of the quote. You don't get it all. You get just a portion. And I'm like, go back and read and see or watch the video and what Donald Trump actually said. And Kash Patel saying the same thing. It's a common tactic. And she says, well, if you consent, I would love to have 5 hours of questions. And then I could read the whole transcripts. Patel said, you have 2 minutes. Whoa, boom. And she is just, at that point, she is just almost sputtering as he says that. So you've got I'm running out of time. You also have Tulsi Gabbard's confirmation hearing going on. And one of the things that she repeated a number of times is that she refuses to be anybody's puppet, she said. So she appeared before the Intelligence Committee yesterday morning. Senator Mike Rounds, by the way, was on Newsmax yesterday. And he said, that, and this is much like the interview I played for you yesterday. He believed that Tulsi Gabbard would do a very good job. And now again, this prior to the hearing, Rounds said, I'm expecting that she will do a very good job. She'll be prepared to answer those questions in an open forum. And he said, and then I look forward to visiting with her in the closed forum as well. I think she's going to be just fine, he says. And it certainly appeared that way. The Fox News has got a story, the top 5 moments. Gabbard saying she's no one's puppet. She said that right in her opening remarks. She said, I want to warn the American people who are watching at home. You may hear lies and smears in this hearing that will challenge my loyalty to and my love for our country. Those who oppose my nomination imply that I'm loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States. Accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, not recognizing the absurdity of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters, she said. Edward Snowden came up a lot. She was questioned on her views on whistleblower Edward Snowden repeatedly throughout the hearing. And, Senator Bennett of Colorado had asked, was Snowden a traitor? And she said he broke the law. Was Edward Snowden a traitor? So you've got, that was a big issue. Gabbard says 9/11 likely could have been prevented. Number of other things that she said. We'll get into that in more detail over the course of the morning. Give you a chance to hear more of what she had to say. And then you had Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who was in for day 2 of his confirmation hearing. And that also got a little bit combative also between Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and in particular, forgive me, Senator Sanders, Bernie Sanders. And RFK Jr. just stood his ground. And it was pretty crazy. So he talked about processed foods. There were just a number of issues that came up. Vaccines, because he'd been on the record sharing his concerns about vaccines, COVID-19, the issue of abortion came up, Medicaid, just a lot. There's a lot of ground to cover with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So I saw a piece this morning in regard to, some of these that, and Politico seems to be saying that, especially with Kash Patel, Democrats just aren't able to get a foothold. They just haven't been able to get a foothold. And Politico then even quotes at least one Democrat senator who says he's likely to pass. They just weren't able to find something that they could first of all, anything that resonated, and that's not a surprise to me, but also the vice president was on Hannity's program the other night. This was Wednesday night, and he was looking ahead then to these hearings that occurred yesterday. And Vice President Vance said The president has made his selections, and the advice and consent power of the United States Senate should not be used to block people because you have one policy disagreement on one issue. You don't get to make those decisions. President Trump gets to make these decisions, and he already has. He said. And then he talked about Trump's mandate, and he said, and the reason he received a mandate is you had people voting for him who don't usually vote Republican. And he said, we have to give those parts of the coalition some wins too. So, yes, we've got a lot of traditional Republicans in the administration. We've got a lot of traditional national security hawks in the administration. But we've also got some new people, some people who bring a fresh perspective. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is one of those. And you're hearing this, you may have heard this as they were talking about it on the Fox News Rundown just prior to this program. It did make a difference when Kennedy threw his support to Donald Trump. It was all over at that point for Kamala Harris. So there's a lot to get to this morning. That's a look at the big stories today. All right, let's take a break. 6:27. Thanks so much for letting me join you. Mostly clear skies, 28. And you're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello.
Weekday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, the Give You More Tire and Automotive Store.
Bring charm from the outdoors into your home with Renewal by Andersen picture and combination windows. Optimizing a beautiful view and light in the bedroom, kitchen, or living room from ABC Seamless of Sioux Falls. Call 615-646-2667 today.
As we were raising our 4 kids, we always looked for the best deal to save money. This is Jim and Janet with Empire Insurance. If you haven't shopped for new insurance rates recently, give us a call.
We were lots of companies.
I can't get 11 afford to load, so I emailed it to you.
Okay, yeah, Chris just having an issue with white bourbon where it goes into island mode. And when that happens, you can't update it. So you emailed it to me?
I did,
Perfect.
yeah. Just keep doing that for now, or?
Yeah, please. Keep doing it until you hear different from me.
Copy that.
Big Papa's, Charlie's, Thirsty Duck.
We're having problems. Yeah, we're having problems this morning.
Taste all the pizzeria creations and vote for your favorite at Kello.com.
Everywhere you look, things are getting more expensive. So at Consumer Cellular, we're lowering the price for those 50 and up.
This is going to make today a little more challenging for me than usual. Our system's not operating correctly, so we're having some issues.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today. Requires 2 lines of service. Goes
into a certain mode then that prevents any updates to the system. And that's so poor Joe, he's trying to upload news and it's not accepting it. But I've got it for you regardless. So
Just $189.
Actually, I did better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed. Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Mostly sunny skies, not quite as warm today. Our high at 44, north winds at 5-15, still well above average for this time of the year. 26 for tonight. Tomorrow, near record territory. We'll call for highs in the low to mid 50s. The record is 54, still in the upper.
And in Sioux Falls at 6:30, mostly clear and 28 currently at Kello. Joe Bowman's in the Kello.com News Center coming up. Immigration-related arrests have been on the increase here in South Dakota. Joe will have details for you coming up in moments. Fox News Radio next. And then we'll run down stories that are trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. Okay, this is going to make my life difficult this hour, so bear with me.
From the FAA that night, which seemed to suggest there may have been staffing issues. The report saying the position
And I'm telling you things I'm not going to say on the air.
volume of traffic.
Generally, when things are going sour behind the scenes, I don't want it to interrupt, what we would otherwise be doing. In other words, I don't want it to interrupt the flow of news and information and conversation.
Would not guard secrets. That's why senators tangled with Gabbard about Snowden.
That's Fox's Chad Pergram.
But because you are watching behind the scenes, I'm letting you know what's going on. Okay. Oh, shoot. Oh, come on. See what I mean? It'll be one of those mornings.
The news never stops. Kello.
Okay, there we go.
107.9.
Mostly sunny skies today, not as warm in the Sioux Falls area. The high, though, still at 44. North winds at 5 to 15. For tonight, partly to mostly cloudy skies. Southeast winds, lows in the mid-20s. And then for tomorrow, we're going to cruise back to the low to mid-50s with a south-southwest wind at 15 to 30. From the Storm Center at Kettleland TV, I'm Brian Karstens.
Free home delivery 24 hours a day. We deliver the news to you at home, at work, in your car, wherever you go. Kello. News Talk 1320, 107.9.
This week, I focused on China's DeepSeek AI. We now know DeepSeek is not a real product of China. It uses American-made chips, and it copied ChatGPT. Here's why DeepSeek is particularly dangerous. I'm Kim Commando. Stop robo and spam calls, junk email and text, online stalking, doxing, and scams with Incogni. Incogni works. Get 60% off today at privacykim.com. While testing DeepSeek, I watched in real time as it flashed correct answers to questions that communist China denies, then quickly removed the answers. Issues like Tiananmen Square, torture and internment camps, the issue of Taiwan. It wouldn't tell me where to find a Christian church if I were to visit China. At least 75% of American teens use some form of AI. In a study published this week, when shown the correct answers to questions they posed to AI, 40% of the teens said the answers were misleading. DeepSeek is a greater danger to teens than we realize. Stay tech ahead with my free newsletter at getkim.com. Think about this. Every time you look up anything online, even your embarrassing private searches, fill out a form, or shop, Data brokers are watching. They collect and sell your information to anyone willing to pay. Your name, address, phone number, social security number, and even your social media activity. It's all out there, often without your knowledge or consent.
I'm worn out already. I'm a half hour into the show.
Personal data to track and target you in ways you may not even realize, but there is a way to fight back. Incogni. It's a powerful tool that removes your data from these brokers, making it much harder for anyone to get their hands on your personal info. Incogni automatically handles the tedious process of sending removal requests to data broker sites, so you don't have to. It also cuts down on the annoying spam calls, texts, and emails. Incogni helps you take control of your personal data and reclaim your privacy. Visit privacykim.com for my deal with Incogni. Go to privacykim.com now for 60% off. privacykim.com.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is sponsored by Tires, with 2 locations to make sure you have the proper traction this winter.
Everything's a little better when it's super. Heroes, markets, sized, and of course, checks. A super check gives you an in-depth review of your current insurance coverage with a Farm Bureau financial services agent, no matter who your insurance provider is. That's super cool. Talk to a Farm Bureau agent to make sure you're properly covered at fbfs.com/protect. It's your future. Let's protect it. Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company, Western Agricultural Insurance Company.
Identity Theft Awareness Week is here. There's a victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. 3 seconds.
Ooh, boy, they did struggle last night. Sioux Falls Stampede. Ouch.
Or your money back. Plus, plans include the $1 million protection package with up to $3 million in coverage for the most comprehensive plan. Take control of your identity with LifeLock. Save up to 40% off your first year with my name, Clay, as the promo code at lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Trust and Will knows that we'll all eventually need a will. How about right now? Trust and Will makes creating your will easy, like while you're lounging on the couch easy. Trust and Will is designed by attorneys but customized by you, and all documents are state-specific and secure. Find your plan at trustandwill.com and use offer code RADIO now for 10% off. That's trustandwill.com, offer code RADIO. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. Visit trustandwill.com for details.
Some days winter in Sioux Falls can be pretty.
And some days winter can be pretty ugly.
See what's ahead of you with up-to-the-minute forecasts.
Find out if it's snowman weather, snowstorm weather, or just no way you should drive today weather.
Kello News Talk 1320 10.
638, mostly clear and 28. Good morning and welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. It's great to have you along. Oof, it was a rough night last night for the Sioux Falls Stampede. You know, they've been battling illness this week. We talked to Jim Olander of the Stampede about that the other day. So the Waterloo Blackhawks won pretty decisively 8-3. So this was a win for the Waterloo Blackhawks last night. So we're hoping things will go better for the Sioux Falls Stampede coming up tonight. They play again tonight. Puck hits the ice at 7:05. And they also then play coming up tomorrow night as well. So it's a very busy weekend for the Sioux Falls Stampede. Hopefully they'll be able to get back on their feet after last night's loss to Waterloo.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from Belf's News Guy.
All right, top trending stories this morning. I don't think you'll be surprised to learn that the crash at Reagan National Airport has been leading the news. Pretty devastating, really heartbreaking. I mean, honestly, I think we've got to keep these families. You've got 67 people who were killed there, a number of them young Olympic, Olympic aspirations, who were among those that were killed. I saw a number of stories this morning as we're learning. Not only Americans, but folks from other countries as well who were killed on board the flight. So there's a story that staffing in the control tower was reportedly not normal during the plane crash, and this has been reported by the New York Times, Forbes, Daily Mail, a number of others as well. Also, as I mentioned, the figure skaters on board, it's been really devastating for the figure skating community. U.S. Figure Skating released a statement and said, "We're devastated by this unspeakable tragedy. Hold the victims' families closely in our hearts. We will continue to monitor the situation. We'll release more information as it becomes available." And there's a lot of that. And so the mayor of Wichita didn't confirm how many members were on board, but during a news conference yesterday, said it was truly an honor to have future Olympians and those who are at the highest competition level of figure skating right here in our capital. Just a lot of sadness. So right now we're just waiting for more information from U.S. Figure Skating. There's been more and more that's coming out. And I think if you're looking for more on that issue, you're looking for some of their stories. There's a lot of it in the media. Also, Donald Trump mourning the loss of the 67 lives yesterday, but then he took aim at former President Joe Biden and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg yesterday. Trump admitted he didn't know that it was necessarily the air traffic controller's fault, but he was critical of Buttigieg and Biden for lowering standards. Trump said Buttigieg ran things into the ground with his diversity, he said. And then he added that some federal employees might be fired after the crash if they aren't mentally competent, he said. And he was talking about air traffic controllers in particular. He says, for some jobs, they have to be at the highest level of genius, Trump said. So this is, you're getting a reaction from what Donald Trump said, and Buttigieg going after Trump, criticizing Trump for politicizing the tragedy. And then he politicized it with his response. So the whole thing just gotten out of hand. I asked that question this morning on Facebook. It's like, I know there's a lot of finger pointing in politics. I absolutely understand that. But when a tragedy like this unfolds, I'd rather we wait and get some information on which to base a decision rather than making a decision based on what people are saying. You know what I mean? Also, we had Robert F. Kennedy and his Senate hearings concluding. So will he make will he wind up being confirmed? So The Blaze has got a piece this morning, 5 wild moments from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Senate hearing that you need to see. Yeah, some of them were pretty crazy. So Liz Wheeler's got a piece at The Blaze. And she focused on Senator Wyden, and because he was really going after Kennedy. Accused Kennedy of causing the deaths of dozens of children in Samoa. He also went on saying of Kennedy, he has embraced conspiracy theories, quacks, charlatans. Sounds like the Democrat Party to me. I'm just oh, sorry. But he said, especially when it comes to the safety and efficacy of vaccines. Also, Kennedy was grilled repeatedly about his stance on abortion, trying to make that a big issue. Senator Elizabeth Warren tried to trap Kennedy into vowing not to sue vaccine companies, and he pushed back. And then she was yelling at him. Again, I mean, I watched Democrats in the U.S. Senate this week, and it's like a lesson in dysfunction. I mean, these people, they just, she screams at, he's saying, talking about the vaccine companies, and he pushes back, and she, no, I am not. She really just screams it at him. And it's pretty crazy. And I think one of the questions here for those who are watching, because I certainly have questions, how deeply are these senators in the pockets of Big Pharma? Because their reactions to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are like way over the top. It's just crazy. And then you have senators grilling Tulsi Gabbard. And one of the big issues, they spent a lot of time questioning her about Edward Snowden, her position on Edward Snowden. And she was asked if Snowden was a traitor to the country. And she was saying Edward Snowden broke the law. I do not agree with how he chose to release information and the extent of the information and intelligence that he released. And so she was interrupted a number of times. And she said, if I may just finish my thought, Senator, she said, this role that I've been nominated for, if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will be responsible for protecting our nation's secrets. And I have 4 immediate steps that I would take to prevent another Snowden-like leak. So what they really wanted to concentrate on, and she was asked this repeatedly, was whether Edward Snowden was a traitor. And I thought, I won't tell you what I thought. I don't have a very high level of trust and respect, unfortunately, for a number of these Democrat senators right now. Then you had Kash Patel, who made Senator Adam Schiff quite angry, as Kash Patel was going through his confirmation hearing yesterday. Schiff started by asking Patel whether he stood by prior testimony that he had nothing to do with a recording of a song that was released by Capitol riot inmates. We have anything to do with that. And so he said, this is Schiff now. This is interesting because here you told Steve Bannon on his podcast. So we thought would be cool is if we captured that audio and then, of course, have the greatest president, Donald J. Trump, recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Then we went to a studio and recorded it, mastered it, digitized it, put it out as a song. So Schiff asked Patel why he had told Bannon that. And it just went sour. So really, that then, why is that relevant to the job? I mean, why is that relevant to the job that he is? This is a problem Democrats have in their lines of questioning for all of these candidates. Why are these things right? I think maybe in the case of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a little bit more, we can see that they're touching on a number of these things. He certainly has been controversial, especially for those who may be in the pocket of Big Pharma. He certainly has been controversial. Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel, are they qualified for the positions in which, and I think what it boils down to is Democrats have And I think you're going to see this. Even some Democrat senators are saying, at least one, I think, told Politico, Patel will be confirmed. So it's just a show. And you've got to go through it. All right. The president of Panama says that he was talking about an upcoming meeting with Marco Rubio, who is now the U.S. Secretary of State. And so this will be Marco Rubio's first official trip abroad this weekend. And the president of Panama says control of the Panama Canal is off the table. That's off the table. We're not going to talk about it, he says. Secretary of State Rubio saying, not so fast. Rubio, in a piece in the New York Post, says this is not a joke. This was during an interview he did with Megyn Kelly. And he said, this is not about acquiring land for the purpose of acquiring land. This is in our national interest, and it needs to be solved. So he went on to say, he was talking about Trump and refusing to rule out using military force to acquire the territory. And Rubio said, this is a businessman who's involved in politics, not a politician involved in politics. So he approaches these issues from a transactional business point of view. He's saying of Trump. He is not going to begin what he views as a negotiation or a conversation by taking any leverage off the table. So we'll see where it goes from there. Also, the Senate has confirmed Doug Burgum to lead the Department of Interior, and that was a pretty overwhelming vote, 78-20 margin, moving that to I think the final vote was 79-18. So pretty overwhelmingly, Doug Burgum being confirmed. Okay, other stories that are trending this morning. The kicker for the Baltimore Ravens, Justin Tucker, is being accused of engaging in inappropriate behavior at 4 Baltimore area spas and wellness centers. This story is from the Baltimore Banner. 6 massage therapists accuse him of some things I'm not going to share with you. It's private, intimate things. Then we're not talking about it, before 7 a.m. in the morning. So some of these therapists say they ended sessions early and refused to deal with him again following these encounters with him. Also, the Israeli government has ordered the United Nations Relief and Works Agency to cease its operations in the country, effective yesterday. So that decision follows years of accusations against the UNRWA, including claims of involvement with the terrorist group Hamas. So this legislation that was passed in Israel in October of last year explicitly bans the UNRWA from operating within Israel's sovereign territory, among other things. Also trending this morning, the U.S. economy grew 2.3% in the fourth quarter. That was slower than expected. NASA's 2 stuck astronauts. Remember those we've not yet brought home? Let's not forget about them. They took their first spacewalk together yesterday, exiting the International Space Station almost 8 months after moving in. There are new results from a national exam find that American children have continued to lose ground on reading skills in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. So they've continued to lose ground. They've also made very little improvement in math. These latest results are known as the nation's report card. So that's yet another setback then for schools in the United States, and really reflects the number of challenges that have upended education. Also, OpenAI saying that U.S. national laboratories will be using their latest artificial intelligence models for scientific research and nuclear weapons security. So the company will work with Microsoft to deploy an OpenAI model on the supercomputer at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. Earlier this week, OpenAI released ChatGPT Gov. That's an AI platform built specifically for the U.S. government. Also, singer and actress Marianne Faithfull has died at the age of 78, and tributes have been pouring in for her. She acted in films including The Girl on a Motorcycle, as well as theater productions. Her voice was used in the remake of Dune, and she has passed away. And that's a look at the stories trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. 657, mostly clear, 28. And you're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello.
Needs to know. Kello.
Thank you, my friend, for being here. Hope you'll come back at 9:30 for the 4th hour. I'll see you then. Take care. Have a great weekend.
This is Brett Copel with Copel's B&B Angus. We would like to invite you to our 48th annual bull sale, Monday, February 10th at 1